Hi, everyone. Welcome back to A Tribe Called Dhillon podcast. I'm Angie Dhillon.
And I'm Rose Dhillon.
And I'm Alvin Dhillon.
And today, joining us all the way from Maine, USA, is Derek, I hope I say this correctly, Derek Januszewski. He is a founding pastor and integration coach at the Pachamama Sanctuary. And guess what, folks? This is the exact same location and sanctuary where Alvin and Rose had their first profound ayahuasca experience. Welcome, Derek, and I hope I said your last name correctly. Woo!
Thank you.
Woo!
So this is a bit of a reunion for Alvin, Rose, and yourself, right?
It's been over 2 years.
Wow. So you came to the Canterbury location. You haven't been to the Maine location.
No. Yeah,
No,
we came
yeah,
when you
so
were
I
in New
believe just
Hampshire.
moved. Yeah, correct.
Yep.
Well, Derek, you forever have changed their lives, and because you changed their lives, they're now helping me to change my life. So one day when I muster up the courage. But before we get into talking to you about all of this fascinating stuff that goes on at the sanctuary and all the great work that you do, I want to introduce this segment that we do every time our podcast airs. It's called Win of the Week. It is something that we highlight, an observation or an action item, something that just was monumental, or just a little win for us that week, where we keep the positivity momentum going. You are our guest. I would like to ask you if you have a win of the week you'd like to speak about.
Sure. My win of the week is that I've had a lot of kind of intense challenges over the last, few months, but especially in the last week or so. And I have realized and recognized that my reactions to it have kind of up-leveled. So when something challenging came my way this week, and it was very difficult, I didn't have my knee-jerk reaction before, which is a huge win. Usually I'll have that knee-jerk reaction, which I will, have to not do, and then wait for the meditation and for the time to process. This time, I was able to skip that step. I felt the impact and just move forward properly. That was really nice.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. It's a little less reactive, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. That's something that I have to work on too. I always find that I'm like that too. I'm coming fully loaded, and then people get a reaction out of me. I'm like, they took my power away. So that's an excellent one. Al, would you like to go next?
Yeah, mine's actually kind of, now that I say it, think about it, it's related to Derek, because after Rose actually found Derek's place at Pachamama Sanctuary, she saw me, I was in a bad state, and she forced me to go to this place. And up till that point, I think I had started a drinking problem. And when I found out that you have to go 14 days of no booze in your system before you show up, and no meat and whatnot. So showed up there, and then I said, okay, let's just see what happens. First night was crazy, like, as you know, that we all went to hell. Second night was heaven. And then when we came back, it took about a few months to really settle in, and now I'm at about 2 years sober, and I gotta say it's due to ayahuasca, because I could not do it without it.
Wow.
That's great, Al.
That's huge,
Yeah.
Al. Good for
So
you.
thank you, Derek, and the whole team, because that
Yeah.
changed me from and it's hard to explain. It's just like your soul changed differently, because now it's like I can stand next to people that are drinking, and if they offer it to me, I'm just like, yeah, no, thank you. Like, you can't force me to drink it right now.
Mm-hmm. Rose, what's yours?
Well, it's not as in depth as Alvin's and Derek's, but I'll attempt mine. So I think I had said it on a previous episode that my car had broken down, and it's getting fixed by Honda. And so when I called Honda, I was like, well, I need a rental car, because it's, due to supply chain issues, it's taking a little longer to fix. And he said, sure, come on over. So went down, and he's like, what do you want? Do you want to try a CRV? Do you want to do a passport? And I was like, well, I don't know what a passport is. He's like, yeah, try a passport. And it's this big honking giant SUV, and it's really cool. And I was like, oh, I see why people buy these now. I see what it is. I had my music blasted. I went down the highway, and I felt like, yeah, I'm like king ding-a-ling. I feel like I'm boss in this car right now. So it's been a really fun week testing that car out.
That's awesome. It might be a small win to other people, but it's a big win for me. I can honestly say that I seem to have figured out my relationship with sugar and my addiction with sugar. So I have cut back. I have, the sweets that are now in the office in the lunchrooms, I can actually walk away without taking a brownie or taking something. So I'm really, really proud of myself for getting my sugar addiction under control. So I'm very happy about that.
Good for you,
That's
Ange.
Thank you. Super stoked, Derek, because I'm sure, like some of our listeners, I have no idea about plant medicine. I know nothing about ayahuasca, and I would love for you to share what you do, what Sanctuary, and how the Sanctuary actually started. If you could tell us a little story about that.
Sure. So, a little background about me. I grew up in a house full of abuse. It led me to some rough coping mechanisms and some obsession, compulsion type stuff that when my marriage fell apart led me to some addiction and alcoholism. And I found ayahuasca because I was trying to heal that. I just kind of wanted that part to go away and my life to stay the same. And that's obviously not what happened. Um, and so after my third retreat at the church down in Florida called Soul Quest, I got this very clear message to dive headfirst into a new way of life. And I read that to mean I should start volunteering. So I started volunteering, and I was driving like 2 hours each way, and I would volunteer every weekend until eventually they started paying me because they realized that I was showing up all the time. I was a good hard worker, I had a good attitude. So I was there for about a year, fell out of alignment, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. So one thing led to another, and the story is interesting and twisting and turning. But I found myself in New Hampshire with the opportunity to organize one retreat, and I gave it a shot. It was kind of embarrassing. Looking back on it, it was 5 people on the floor of a dusty old dance hall, and we didn't even have the mats to sleep on, so we had like couch cushions put together with sheets. And I don't know if you know what a papasan chair is, but they're the round chairs. We had one of those laying. Somebody used that as a bed, curled up on it, kind of like a puppy. It was not what I was used to. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. But the person that owned the property and the person that served medicine were really happy with the way the weekend turned out. They asked me to do it again. The reason that I do it is because I really like seeing the transformations in people. I really like seeing people coming in on Friday with their head down and they're, upset and not really sure what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and all that kind of thing. And struggling with something in their life. And then on Sunday, they leave with this amazing, profound, different perspective on life and how to approach it and all of that. And it's like Christmas. I talk about Friday being like Christmas Eve and Sunday being like Christmas Day when all the faces are open and everybody's smiling and they have had this big experience. And it's something that that just has been calling to me for a long time. I'm the pastor, which I'm not of the cloth. That's like a minister or priest. A pastor basically takes care of everything, makes sure that all of the that everything is organized, right? That everything, all the bills are paid, that the attorneys are the correct ones, that the DEA is taken care of, so we're safe. That the right team is assembled, that the place is clean and safe, and the food is proper for the dieta, and that everything is comfortable, and so I kind of oversee all of that and make sure that everything sort of happens properly. And that's, as a pastor, that's what I do. And occasionally I say some woke stuff on Sunday. I don't know.
How did the name Pachamama Sanctuary or Pachamama, how did that name come to be?
So I was we had started having retreats and we were just calling them ayahuasca retreats. We didn't really have a name, and I really started to get interested in naming what we were, and I didn't really know what to name it. I came up with all these ideas, and Sanctuary was the first thing that I landed on, because I didn't want it to be called church, because church sort of is associated with Christianity or Catholicism, right? And I wanted it to be called like a correct term, so I just researched different terms of houses of worship, and Sanctuary came up and it resonated. As far as the name Pachamama, I just asked like 30 or 40 people until one person says, "Why don't you just go back to the roots and call it Pachamama?" Pachamama is a deity that's been worshipped in South America and other parts of mainly South America, as kind of the mother of Mother Earth, like the grandmother of Earth, right? So, and there's lots of songs about it. She's very revered. And so when soon as somebody said Pachamama, like it was instantly, I didn't have to ask anybody else. That was definitely the name. His name's Jeremy. No, yeah, Jeremy. And it was instantly a yes. So I didn't go any further.
How long has Pachamama been in business for, and how many people have come through in estimate?
So February 2019 was our first retreat with 5 people there, and since then we've had about 4,000 people come and receive ayahuasca.
Wow. And does Pachamama Sanctuary predominantly only deal with ayahuasca, or do you do other plant medicines there as well?
Ayahuasca is our sacrament. That is our main sacrament, right? There's other plant medicines that do support the work that we do with ayahuasca. So one of them that we utilize during retreat is called hape. It's basically powdered mapacho. Mapacho is a cousin to the tobacco plant. And it's administered through the nose into the sinuses. It's pretty uncomfortable, but it's really a great experience if you just allow the medicine to do what it does. It stings, though. It stings going in.
Oh yeah, I can tell you that.
Burn to
It stings. Yeah.
Yep. Wachuma or San Pedro is another supportive medicine that we bring on occasion. Bufo is another medicine that is supportive that we bring on occasion. And, but these are to support our work with ayahuasca. They're not our main focus. They're definitely supportive of ayahuasca. Bufo is a very deep, very intense journey. And it goes very deep, but it's light work. So ayahuasca is shadow work, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, but Bufo is light work. Wachuma is very heart opening and very bright, and it's a grandfather. So these medicines we bring in to balance them out. But almost all of our retreats are ayahuasca retreats.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Rose.
Derek, can you tell people, because I feel like they don't understand what ayahuasca is. Everyone's like, oh, it's a drug. Well, like I always call it plant medicine, but maybe explaining like how it comes to be the actual ingredients of ayahuasca.
Sure. So ayahuasca is made of 3 main ingredients, and then there's other ingredients that can be added. Okay. The first ingredient is the ayahuasca vine. This is a plant that grows in South America. It's where the spirit is of the in the medicine. And then the second plant is chacruna, is what most people use, and that's where some of the active ingredients or the activators are. Okay. The third ingredient, of course, is water. So they're boiled together over a long period of time at kind of a high temperature, and that's when you get the tea. Okay. Some places use a little bit of vinegar or lemon juice to adjust for the pH. Some tribes use different other plant medicines that add into it, like anise or mapacho is one that gets added to a lot of them. But the main ingredients are the ayahuasca vine and then the chacruna leaf or chalapanga leaf. And it's basically when you brew it together, it releases this entourage of molecules that work in unison. So one of the molecules in the ayahuasca vine is an MAO inhibitor. And what that does is it shuts down certain parts of the stomach or certain release of acid in the stomach. so that one of the active ingredients in the chacruna leaf, the DMT or dimethyltryptamine, doesn't get destroyed by the stomach acid, so that it can be absorbed into the blood. If you just took DMT orally, it would just fall apart. It wouldn't actually have any effect. So it's the unison of the two, and they work off of each other beautifully.
And just to add, so they're just boiled in water, and then that's it, right? There's nothing else. There's no other process to that.
That's correct. It's called
Okay.
tea because it's tea.
Tea, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question, Derek. When you said bufo, is that basically like another name for that 5-MeO DMT?
That's correct. Yep. Bufo is a Bufo alvarius, the toad, or the Colorado river toad, or the Sonoran desert toad. And the 5-MeO DMT is, so that's taken from the toad and dried out and vaporized and inhaled. It's about 20 or 30 times stronger than ayahuasca, and it comes on in about 10 seconds.
Oh.
Okay.
Very, very deep and very, very fast. So all of the intensity ceases to be problematic because you blow through all the resistance and you just dissolve into surrender anyway. You have no choice.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you.
Derek, ayahuasca has been around for a long time, right? Especially in indigenous cultures, they use this for ceremony. So this is not something new to mainstream media. This plant medicine has been around for a long time. Is that correct?
As far as we can tell, a few thousand years. They found a pouch with some remnants of it, something like 1,600 years old. So it's been around for quite a long time.
Wow. And it's safe. It's natural. No one has passed away from doing an ayahuasca experience. And this is me talking on my own experience. If I was to do it, I'm not going to die.
Yeah. So there are some contraindications. There are some situations where it's not safe. And we weed those people out by asking certain questions. And those contraindications are pretty small, right? So schizophrenia and bipolar, it causes a pretty bad reaction. So that's contraindicated. Anybody who's taking any psych meds, SSRIs, or any benzodiazepines, or any lithium, or any kind of anything that affects the brain. Also, all kinds of nerve medicines like GABA receptors and gabapentin and things like that. Those are all contraindications. They cause issues. Okay. Potentially fatal ones. Usually it's just a really miserable experience, but theoretically it can be fatal. Okay. People that have heart disease, have had strokes, epilepsy, people that have uncontrolled high blood pressure, these kinds of things are contraindications. Okay. And then obviously pain, like illicit drugs, cocaine, methamphetamines, amphetamines of any kind, and all of the other things like methadone and all of that. These are contraindications, and they can cause a dangerous situation. Outside of that, it's incredibly safe. It's incredibly safe. The people that have died taking ayahuasca usually are all like there's been quite a few people that have gone to South America and died taking ayahuasca, but they don't actually die taking ayahuasca. What they do is they have something else called a mapacho vomitivo, where they make tea out of mapacho, and you're supposed to drink it and purge it out and throw it up. But if you don't throw it up, it sits in your body. It can get toxic and it can cause a problem. And being out in the middle of the jungle, there's no doctors, so they pass away. There's also out down in the jungle, if there's two people with that are facilitating the ceremony, and there's 12 or 15 people that are in ceremony, if one person gets up and wanders off, well, the two facilitators can't chase them around. They just got to come back to the ceremony room. And if they get lost in the jungle, or eaten by an animal, or fall and hit their head or something like that, those are the types of things that happen with people around ayahuasca. Not drinking ayahuasca and then you die. That's incredibly uncommon. The only one that I know of, and I'm sure there's more, was like a very old woman, and she had heart problems. That's the only one that I know of for sure. I think there's more, but it's really safe, really, really safe.
Okay. And ceremony, I know that you touched on ceremony and I brought it up as well. What's the reason that the word ceremony is connected to ayahuasca? What's the connection there?
It's our sacrament, and that sacrament should be honored and respected and held very sacred. Um, Life is a ceremony. Ceremony is a word that can be used for anything that you are honoring. Okay. Now, if you go into a Catholic mass, there is a lot of ceremony to the entire the entire mass, the entire time that you're there, right? Everything from them bringing the Bible out real high above their head and just honoring everything and respecting it and um, and so uh, the ayahuasca ceremony opens. It has an opening where there's a smoke bath and there is a prayer, and then there is service of sacraments. And and then after service of sacrament, people stay in that ceremonial space that's protected, that's a contained, um, protected environment for the duration of their experience with the medicine. Then, when everything is done and it's wrapped up, there is something that is done to close that circle. Now, usually we open the circle up on Friday and close the circle up on Sunday and consider the entire weekend a ceremony, right? But we hold it in very, very high regard. The medicine, the experience, the people in the ceremony, and we show that honor through ceremony.
Mhm. So it's a weekend retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how long does the ayahuasca stay in one system? Or I guess how long is it safe to say the word like trip? Is that the right word?
Yeah. You feel the effects, the acute effects, the the shift in perception for 4 to 6 hours, but hopefully it stays in your system for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like it stayed in a lot longer after I did the experience as well. Like I'm feeling more now post 2 years that it's starting to just starting to maybe me personally just losing a bit of the message that I received. And it makes me understand why people would do it again after, a certain amount of time, because I think a little bit of the message can be lost. And maybe for our viewers and even Angie, someone who doesn't have any kind of understanding or knowledge about it, maybe walking through why would someone do ayahuasca?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. There's a lot of reasons why people would want to sit with this medicine and take ayahuasca. One of the big ones is they're dealing with some kind of discomfort in their life, right? Some kind of discomfort that's persistent, that's chronic, right? It could be depression, anxiety, traumatic responses, behavior, unwanted and undesirable behavior patterns or thought patterns, just being negative all the time, compulsively watching the news, uh, eating habits that could be better. Like if somebody wanted to stop eating sugar, and there's also a group of people that and there's many that have a desire to strengthen their bond with their creator or with their source and move further along the path of their spiritual growth. And this is a really great way to do that because it removes all of the filters that the ego throws up, right? And it allows us to really understand what we don't know, because it's not what you know. It's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you know that just ain't so. And so when the medicine removes the ego that wants to be right, it allows us to be curious. And so that helps a lot of people with their spiritual path because a lot of people get blocked. I've been doing yoga for 5 years and like my growth has stopped. and then you ask them about yoga and they know everything about yoga. Well, there's yogis that have been doing it for 50 years that don't ever know everything about yoga, right?
Mhm.
It allows them to be a student again and become a student again.
I love that.
I know Al and Rose said to me that they went to hell and back. And another experience. So one, why would anyone want to go to hell and come back? And second of all, is it possible for people to feel the energy of their loved ones? Because I'll tell you why. When Alvin and Rose went and to visit your sanctuary, and they told me, they didn't really tell me exactly what time, the ceremony was going to happen. But I know for me, it was about 6 p.m. in the evening, our time, which would have been about 9 p.m. your time, 9 or 9:30. And I was on the phone with a friend talking, and all of a sudden I had this gagging reflex, like I'm going to vomit. I felt sick. I'm like, what's going on? And I had no clue that, the ceremony had started at that time, but we're all three of us are super connected. That must have gone, that whole experience must have been from 6 p.m. my time, Vancouver time, till about 2 a.m. in the morning for me. So that was 6 hours for me. I don't know what was going on. I was like, is this menopause? Like, what's happening here? No clue, until then I was groggy the next day, until I think I spoke to them when they came back, and they said that's what time the ceremony was happening. So is there that type of energy connection that you can pick up on energy if someone's going through this?
Absolutely. And a lot of people, before they even come to receive medicine, start to get messages and start to get things start to open up for them before they even get here. This happens it's very
Wow.
common. Almost every single week, somebody's like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but I started thinking a little bit differently, or certain things were rolling off my back before I even came. It's pretty interesting. But the medicine works through spiritual planes. It's not, we only perceive like 1% or half of a percent of what's actually going on around us. There's all these spiritual planes, and the spiritual world doesn't care if you believe in it or not. It's there, right? And so there is a tether between the three of you. There's an absolute tether. And so if somebody that was in that tether was going through something, you might feel it. And since this was such a powerful experience, you might feel it more so and be able to relate it to one of the to either Al or Rose, as opposed to if it was just a little agitation or something that you were feeling, you might just be like, just like a little agitation in my mind. But maybe Rose at that very moment had just like stubbed her toe or something, right? And the more tuned in that we get to all of these emotions and these messages, the deeper we can get into recognizing what they actually are. That's why meditation is so amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, I found that really interesting because I didn't know, once again, what time the ceremony was happening, but I know that I came to visit my parents, and I said to my parents, "Are you worried where your two kids have gone off to and what they're doing?" And both my parents are like, "Oh, we slept fine. This is great." And I'm like, "Am I the only one going crazy here with this? Am I the only one connected to this stuff?" And my mom's like, "Yeah, you're crazy." And I'm like, didn't understand what was happening. And then the next day, it was bliss. Like, I was like, this is so, it's like I had a bad cough or a flu, and then literally 24 hours later, I was like, oh, seeing the light. And I'm like, am I going crazy? What is happening? And I explained it to a couple of my friends, and everybody was like, no, you're not connected like that. It's not energy. And I'm a big believer in spirituality, energy, that, you can feel everything. And then when these two came back, I wanted to beat them up. I was like, where did you take me on Friday? But the next day was good. So where do they go? Where does the mind go? Where does the ego go? What happens during this entire process?
The ego dissolves. And so the mind stays put, but it stops getting in the way of the stream of consciousness that's connected to source.
Mm-hmm.
The ego, the brain, is the thing that blocks the heart from the sky. And so it starts to dissolve all of these different parts and allows the flow of that energy to just be connected. It's our brain that keeps us disconnected from God.
Do you
And
think that's
so
where the ego lives? Inside the
absolutely,
brain?
absolutely.
And I want to touch on one more point, because that was really what I really felt during that, was that dissolve of my ego. And I just felt this flood of love in my heart that I had never experienced in this plane, in this life. And that's something that was like it felt so real. And it was like the message that I got from that is this is how we should be living. And I would say I didn't do a 180, but I definitely did changes in my life where leading with love far more than what I did prior to ayahuasca, which is I did definitely say I'd lead with my ego. And for me, my ego was more of a protection mechanism where like I would show up a certain way just so I could protect. But now it's more like I'm okay being vulnerable. I'm fine with leading with love. If you think it's weak or you think it's this, I'm perfectly fine with you thinking that way. And so I guess my question is to you is like, why does that happen to us? And like, how can more people, like, I guess, get this message? Like, how can we get more people to feel like understand that that's what ayahuasca does to you, is expands your heart and opens you to having that profound feeling?
That's our natural state.
Mm,
Have you ever watched a 2-year-old chase bubbles? They
right.
just want to be present and love and hug their parents and be friendly and be kind. They don't care about, age, gender, race. They don't care. They just want to love people and they want to hug people and they want to be happy, right? That's our natural state. All of the stuff that gets built for us and programmed into us through television and trauma and family and society and ads and music and the list goes on, it all builds this sort of fear-based structure that is that's the opposite of what we want what our natural state is. You're
Mhm.
born of love, created entirely of love, and that's all you want to be. That's all we all want to be. And so all of this stuff that keeps us separated, left, right, red, blue, uh, Maine, California, it like all these different separators, all these different, Instagram is a rough one. It just teaches us that we're not good enough and we're not pretty enough and we're not smart enough and we're not cool enough and we're not rich enough, right?
Mhm.
Because that's all we see is this highlight reel. And so that programs us into our mind. And then we end up having negative self-talk because that's the subconscious uh, messaging that we program in by going through and going through Instagram. It's damaging to our natural state. And so ayahuasca is not the only path to that. Meditation, yoga, breath work, various different religions, if you can take away the judgment and the criticism and the in the icky part, right? If you just like leave that there and look at the messages of the ascended masters, they're beautiful messages. They're real, true, beautiful messages that are mostly in alignment. They're the ones who tapped into that alchemical gold.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, the wheels
Yeah.
are turning in my
Yeah.
head. They're
Yeah.
turning.
As he was talking, I felt like I was reliving some of my experience
Yeah.
when we had it. But question is, how come you have to go to like hell? Do you know how most people went to hell the first night and heaven the second night? And you were telling us that if you had a really bad experience the first night, because we were all like, I remember the next day we were all afraid to do it again the second night, and there were actually some people that left, and you were saying you've come this far, not just to come this far, like you should go through it. And that's what we were telling us. I said, okay, I'm gonna start off with a smaller dose, and then you also said just ask Pachamama, ask like grandmother Ayahuasca to be a little more kinder and ask her to be a more gentler, and that's exactly the intention we put out. And the second night for everybody was just
Right.
like, okay, I see now why we have to do this, but why is it that you have to go to generally hell the first night and heaven the second night?
So the medicine shows you what is inside of you, right? It shows you what's inside. It doesn't show you like magical out there stuff. And so whatever's inside, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing already, it just takes away the ability to lie to yourself about it. Right? So there's a lot of people going through a lot of heavy stuff in their life. I mean, when I know I'm an alcoholic, I know when I'm an when I am in active alcoholism, I am in hell. That's a true statement. I am living in hell. I'm drinking and staying in hell. And so if I am drinking alcohol and I have all of this stuff. And alcoholism, by the way, and from what I've come to understand, at least for me, and I think this goes for others, um, the hell that's inside is what gets quieted when I take a drink. And so I'm already in hell. So if I don't have that drink, of course I'm going to have all of these emotions, these things, this restless, irritable discontent. This hell that I'm living, right? And so if I drink ayahuasca, it's going to show me what I am. I went through an experience where I drank 4 doses. So I took 2 doses to start and 2 more doses at the second cup, huge cups. And I was dying over and over and over, maybe 20 times, just in rapid succession. I would come to, and I would be so intensely uncomfortable that I was begging for death. And then I would then I went into this death experience where the light, I got stretched across all space time, and it was comfortable. And then I snapped back into my body, and I was miserable, and I was begging for death. And it did this over and over like a wash cycle. And at the end of it, it took me a while to integrate and understand what was going on. But what was happening was it was showing me that I was suicidal. It was showing me that I wanted to go to sleep and not wake up, and that's not healthy. I didn't want to actually murder myself, right? But I just didn't want to live. I wanted to die, and that's suicidal ideation. That's hoping for death, and that's unhealthy. That's hell. So the medicine needed to show that to me, and I needed to see it, so I could actually, address it and change it. So everybody doesn't have to go to hell. That's not really everybody's experience, although there is difficult experiences, and sometimes groups are magnetized together and architected by something far more intelligent than me that brings a bunch of people together that are living through some part of their life that's hell. And they bring them together to have this shared experience so that they can have the next shared experience, which is all of the gifts. If you just let go of that stuff and purge it out and just hug everybody, then you can have this new experience and go off in life and have a new experience. The way that the groups are architected by the medicine is just beautiful. The way that people come together, and there's so many similarities in the same room. It's still surprising, even though it's not surprising. Every week I look around and there's a theme. There is a theme every week.
Thank you for your honesty, Derek,
Yeah.
because
That's awesome.
we're all about transparency, and we really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing your story, because I know it's going to hit a lot of our listeners and us. And this is a powerful medicine, ayahuasca, very what it shows you. Can I get you, because I have no comprehension, I'm a very illogical person, so I need to understand it, like 1 + 1 is 2. So when you drink this medicine, it's obviously like tea, right? You're drinking this medicine. So is it hallucinations? Like, how do you start seeing these images? Are they visuals? Like, what starts to, like, if I was to close my eyes and right now, like, what would start happening? Like, how would I start piecing together like what I need to work on if I was to be in ceremony?
So the medicine speaks to each person in a way that they can understand. Okay. We can all look at the sky and say the sky is blue, but we don't know if my blue is the same as your blue, right? You don't
Mhm.
understand that concept. So
Yeah.
basically, each person needs to be approached and shown in a very specific way, because every person is unique and every person has had a unique background. And there's no way for a one size fits all experience to be able to heal everybody. It just doesn't work that way. The medicine is just as dynamic as each individual who takes it. Okay. So for me to explain to you, this is exactly what you're going to do, there's no way to do that. And that would also build an expectation that
Mhm.
might come in a completely different way. Okay. Most people that come say, this was definitely not what I expected, but I don't know what I expected. But a lot of people come in with expectations. Okay. So I don't want to build expectations.
Mhm.
The medicine comes on and you start to feel heavy usually. Okay. Um, a little bit like feeling drunk, but not as fun. Okay. Just, off balance, a little off kilter, the equilibrium is off. Um, and you can feel the medicine kind of vibrating in your body usually. Sometimes that feels like cold, but it's not really cold. It's just this kind of vibration that's going on in the body. And then as the ego starts to dissolve, it's a lot more about what happens in the mind and what happens in the emotional body than it is what you see. Sometimes there's beautiful shapes and colors and all the fractals and all of these kinds of things, and they come in usually slowly, and then they get kind of more vibrant as time goes on, and sometimes they can be abstract, and sometimes they can be very they can look like different things, and sometimes in your mind's eye you will see like a vision of a person or something in your past or something that's very important to you, and that might come in your mind's eye. Like if you close your eyes now, and you imagine something that you really care about, you get a bit of a mental picture of it, right? That can come in too, but the more important part is the emotional journey. It's an emotional journey inside the subconscious mind. And so it takes you on this journey where it takes away the ability to lie. And then it takes away the ability to avoid certain emotions. Okay. So, for example, for me, because I can only speak for me, I had a lot of resentment towards my mother about her alcoholism. She was an alcoholic for as far as I can remember going back, and she died an alcoholic death where she intentionally drank herself to death when she knew she had a failing liver. And I had a lot of resentment towards my mom. She died in June of 2022. Okay. And when I take the medicine, what it showed me was that had my mom not been drinking that whole time because of how horrible her childhood was, she probably would have committed suicide. And so it was sort of her medicine to make it so that I could have my mom around until I was 47 instead of 27. And so that alcohol that I resented so badly became my ally. And so the resentment came off, and what was replaced with it was remorse and deep, deep guilt in the way that I treated my mother and blamed my mother. And so I had to experience the remorse and the guilt and the shame of treating my mom badly because of my resentment, because of my selfishness. And so I had to feel all that guilt. I had to feel all that shame, and I had to purge that out into the bucket and get rid of it so that I could move on and have this new experience where I'm not resentful towards my mother. I appreciate her for a lot more things, and I have a lot more, like, all of these good memories flooded in. They were blocked. I didn't have any good memories. Once I purged into that bucket in the coming weeks, all of these memories of me going to baseball games with her and going to the park with her and her making me breakfast and her teaching me how to make French toast and all these different things, climbing in the backyard and bringing in blueberry or blackberries for her to make desserts with and stuff like that. I had forgotten about it. They were like blocked because of the resentment, right? So that's kind of how the medicine works. It's if I talk about the fractals and the colors and all of that stuff, yeah, it's interesting, but it's a distraction. It's actually a side effect that's sort of unwanted in a way. It's not really about the colors. It's not about the shapes. It's about that emotional journey inside the subconscious mind to clear out all of this stuff that we can't see in its completeness.
Wow. Well, thank you for
I love
explaining
that
it that
story.
way.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going
it's-
to add to that, Ange, because that's exactly what was my experience too, was that I don't think I had resentment, but I was feeling a little abandonment from my parents. They were growing up, they were just, they were immigrants to the country, they were working a lot. And I was kind of just born at a time that wasn't kind of convenient. And so they had to kind of get babysitters for me frequently. And I blocked, like you said, I blocked a lot of the good things. And then when I was in ayahuasca, it showed my mom putting me on stage when I was doing a dance performance, showing me when my dad opened up Rose video, like showing me all the great things that my parents had done. And I was like, yeah, like I blocked all that and just focused on the so-called abandonment that I was feeling, but not realizing all the amazing things I did too. So that's one thing I was really, really grateful for ayahuasca was I don't know if I was able to get that on my own, because I did do a lot of meditation, but I never was able to see that the way you explained it. And then during the
Mhm.
ceremony, I was able to see so much love, and that my parents were just doing the best that they could do with the tools they
Mhm.
had, given the time that they were in. And that really helped me. I would say probably even increase my bond with them so much more now.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're all trying to do? Just to do the
Right?
best that we can and stay afloat, right?
Yeah.
This is a tough world that we live in.
Yeah.
I know. I always say like we're not born with an owner's manual, and we're literally born with whatever trauma that our parents and grandparents don't have, and it's like we have to inherit it, and then it's all in those formative years, and like that from like 0 to 10, and then whatever happens in that year, you pay for it in the following years after if it's not addressed. And I felt like for me, I was in a kind of a weird situation where I was dealing with some losses, and like yourself, I couldn't cope with it, so I decided to just because the first few drinks will help you just deal with it, and then you start saying, okay, next day I'll have a few more because evening time. And unfortunately, the way it started, it was just at the beginning of the pandemic. So essentially, if you woke up and you started drinking like all day, you had nowhere to be. The whole world was shut down. We weren't allowed to leave our house. You weren't allowed to do anything. And then you're like, okay, so this is gonna be a slippery slope. But the way it worked was it's just the start of the pandemic. I had a loss, and it continued, and I found myself when I got to the point where I couldn't stop. Never in my life thought I would be that person that got to this point, because I always thought, like if you're an alcoholic, you're just weak. You can't stop. You don't know how to stop on your own, because that was just our own lack of knowledge. And when it happened to me, and I said, oh, this just completely like paradigm shifted me to be like, I got to look at life way differently, and you got to have a lot more compassion, because the way I was thinking, like with our ego, judging people and judging myself to say, "Oh, you're weak. You can't even like, put the drink down." And then when I came, and I felt like if it wasn't for ayahuasca, like I don't know where I'd be today. But it showed me like so many intense things. At first, it literally showed me like if you go down this path, the path you're on with drinking, this is where you can end up. And it showed me lying in a hospital bed with like kidney failure and all my family standing around me. And it would show me the same thing but multiple ways till I got it in my head. And then I would kind of come out of it, and I was seeing like the losses, like my uncle and whatnot. And then I would come back out of it, and like because we were in a communal setting, so you heard like in other people's energy, you'd go back into your own state. And then I remember that one final moment, like before the end of the night, I can clearly remember it. It was like, I guess it's like maybe the universe shows you something that you connect with. So it was Joe Pesci sitting at a bar telling me, "Come over here, kid. We got to show you some stuff." And he brought me over to the bar, and then he was like, "So you wanna keep living the way you're living, eh?" He's like, "This is what's gonna happen." And then he shows me, and it's like a movie. Like he just shows you like the scene of where it's gonna go, and then he says, "But if you want to change your life and you like do the work and you listen to this, this is where you're gonna go." And then it shows me this other picture, and I remember that was the last thing. And then we all went to sleep, and then the next day was we were afraid because we were like, "What's gonna happen now?" And then it ended up being just like a life-changing experience.
Mm. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great way that the medicine needed to show you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and at that
Yeah.
moment, I think it did what it needed to do, and I get now about 2 years later, I'm like, okay, I see now why people do this again, because it got me to where I need to be, and now I'm like, maybe I need to unlock the next level to go to the next level, like almost like a video game. Like I unlock the cheat code, and I got to go to the next step, but you still got to do the work in between that time, because if you don't do the work, then it's easy to kind of slip back into the
Yeah.
old ways of
Mhm.
thinking, because of unfortunately this world is it's hard, right? This life is hard. There's a lot of things going on. You got to deal with, like you're saying, like a lot of social situations, your family, friends, everybody around you. And I just feel like as a global consciousness, people are like more stressed out than they've ever been, especially with
Right.
cost of living, what's going on. Like we live in Vancouver, and like if I don't know how I could ever purchase anything here. Like a 35-year-old house is $2 million.
Right.
I can help you with that.
He's like, come out to Maine, you own a piece of land for that
No,
much.
I can help you with that. There's something called the Master Key System.
Oh.
It is
Oh.
the most powerful manifestation tool that's ever known to exist. It was written back in 1914, and it is massively powerful. It's what I used to go from, and we kind of skipped over this part of my story, but I had a addiction relapse after my mom died in June of 2022, and I ended up having to go to rehab in September of 2022. I ended up in rehab in September 2022, I had to cancel 4 retreats, and I owed people all that money. It was over $100,000. So I was in rehab, over $100,000 in debt to the community, and then in other debt around, so, and within 10 months with no income, right? No retreats were happening. I didn't get a job. I ended up closing on this $1 million property. And it's through that manifestation technique, the Master Key system. You do the Master Key system for 26 weeks, your whole life will change. Like you'll be able to create anything that you want. This idea that you can't get it because of some self-proclaimed wall between you and buying a 35-year-old house for whatever, that's 100% in your mind. That's 100% in your mind. If you remove the block in your mind, you will materialize exactly what you want.
Sign me
So
up for
true.
that.
Yes,
26
I
week
feel like I'm
program.
standing in my own way. How do we go about that? Do you
Yeah.
offer those classes, or how does this work?
It's even better than that. Since it was written in 1914, it's public domain. You can get it for free.
Oh
Free.
wow! Okay, I gotta write this
I
one
thought
down.
this was a great
Yeah,
ayahuasca
I'll write that down, 'cause
conversation.
you
Yeah,
know,
what
I'm gonna
was
look up
the
that.
name again exactly?
The Master Key System. It's by Charles Hannell. I recommend spending $7.50 on a copy you can get on Amazon.
Yep.
And it works like this. Every part is an exercise. So you read it and you meditate every day for a week, and then you move on to part 2 and you read it and you meditate every day for a week. And basically, the first chapter is the world within reflects the world without, and the world without reflects the world within. You cannot possess in the world without what you do not already possess in the world within, and what you possess in the world within. It depends on how you think, necessarily how you think. So, there was this book that sold so many copies, it became a $1 billion industry. This one book called The Secret, and that's based on chapter 1. There's 25 more parts to it. That's just the entry. The Secret is just the entry.
I knew The Secret was missing something. I was like, this is missing something. I did the whole thing, and I was like, they're not giving me all the information. So that's helpful. Thank you.
They probably commercialize it to make it easier for people to digest and give them one step. But it's almost kind of, it feels like it's like your mindset. Like if you have a scarcity mindset, you're not gonna bring in abundance. But if you have kind of an abundance mindset, you're gonna start attracting more. But I try to always practice that, but it's so hard. You get caught up in like some of the daily stressors, and all of a sudden you find yourself reverting back to like, I'm gonna start complaining about things again and join the rest of the crowd. And then you find yourself like, this is not bringing me any joy by complaining more.
Yep, you will manifest everything that you think. Unfortunately, we think a lot of negative things.
Right.
Whatever it is, whatever it is you think, you will manifest. So what the Master Key System is an exercise and a training on how to think.
Oh.
Not what to think, how to think.
How to think.
Now,
I like that.
Do you believe that sometimes, like they say that we have an average of, let's say, 50 to 70 thoughts a day, but I feel like sometimes where I'm in a good trajectory and all of a sudden, boom, like this crazy thought will come through. And do you think sometimes that we're picking up on other people's thoughts or things that are going on around us that you're like, I was in a good headspace, but I feel like these aren't my thoughts, or this is not my energy. This is somebody else.
It could be that, and it could also just be, programs running. The mind does the mind is a tool. It's like the heart just beats. It does its job. The mind is supposed to produce thought, and so all of the thoughts that we have now are a result of everything that we have experienced up until this very second. And so sometimes, for example, if somebody thinks that they're if they're a pole vaulter and they think they're a 7, right? And they go out there and they throw a great throw, and they throw a throw that's a 10, right? The next throw they're going to throw is going to be a 5 because they're going to average it out. They're like, oh, that was a fluke. They don't trust that they're a 10, right? And so if you're going along having a great day and you have this sort of underlying subconscious belief that you're not one of the joyful people, that you're sort of middle of the road, well, you can have another one that's going to offset it, that's going to balance you to be the middle of the road thinker. Also, we pick up on other people's energy, even from Vancouver to New Hampshire.
Right.
I definitely did. I sure did.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, this is such a fascinating conversation. This is amazing. I know we're coming to a bit of time, and you're a busy man. I do want to say that I love your title, being an integration coach, because I say that we need coaches for everything. There should be a coach. I don't want my manager to be manager. I want her to be like a coach. I just think, when you've got a coach, it helps. It's just that sports mindset, right? They're going to build you up. They're going to walk you through something, and they're going to carry you, and you're going to be okay. Just, it's something more safe and sacred about hearing the word coach. Like, they got your back. So you're doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Derek, thank you for that. Really, I came in when I was in a very dark place. And I was just stuck, and I thought, is this my life now? Am I not going to be able to come out of that? And so coming to your sanctuary and having that weekend experience was probably the most profound experience of my life. To be honest, I think some part of me is still chasing, like, I want that experience just one more time. I want to feel that way again. It was amazing. And your team was great, and you were wonderful. And so I am forever grateful to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, me as well. I everybody there, you could tell that you and the whole team were coming from your, like, doing it from a place from your heart, like, of goodness. It wasn't like, let's just get these guys in and out, like almost like a transactional thing. It was, we all felt very safe,
Yeah.
very comfortable. We just felt a lot of love in there. We're like, we're at the right place. And when we did find your sanctuary, my sister did a lot of research first too. We're like, we're not going to just go to anywhere that's offering it somewhere. And all the reviews and everybody kept pointing towards your sanctuary. And it was, a lot of people had a lot of feedback about you and Arkawa. So I had a
Right.
question: was, how did you meet Arkawa? Because I think it was for him and his live band, and the music that you guys were playing really helped us resonate harder. It was the first night, it almost like got us where we need to be, especially during the shamanic breathwork. And the next day when he changed his tune, where it was more like heavenly music and sounds, I felt like it just gelled perfectly together.
Mhm. Arkawa was introduced to me back in 2019. He started working with us in 2019, and he came through a very trusted recommendation. And the first time I met him, he was showing up for retreat, and since then we've become really good friends. He's a great guy. He helps us, we help him. It's just been a really great friendship has developed. He's a great man. I love him.
Amazing.
Yeah. His album is great. I still
Yeah,
listen
his
to it.
album. I
Sometimes
still
every few
listen to
months
it.
when I need like a reactivation, I pump it because it's just something about the beat when you have a good subwoofer. It's like amazing. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So that was a one of a kind experience that we're trying to get our sister to do, and she's not. Angie's not ready for all that yet.
Well,
but I said,
well,
it's gonna
Derek,
be a game changer because
well,
I could.
Derek, I'm the one who found the sanctuary because I'm the researcher in the family. Like, I'm not sending my siblings anywhere, and yours kept coming up. So I gave all the information to these two, and then they come back with such profound experience. And listen, I got a lot of trauma, a lot of fear. I blame it on my mama, even though I love her. I was the first child, the eldest. So, everything was like protecting this child, and a lot of, constant, when you're protecting your child, that fear base comes in. And so I grew up very fearful all the time. And I think I used to be so fearless when I was younger, but now as we get older, we become more fearful. Like, what happens? So I know I have some work to do, but I know in due course we will meet.
Yeah.
Well, not anytime soon.
The medicine starts off with a beautiful, beautiful gift. The gift of showing you that courage gets rewarded.
Oh, I love that.
It's a good.
You're not gonna not be afraid. That's never gonna happen. I've drank it 150 times. I'm afraid every single time I drink it.
150 times. Is that how many times you've done an ayahuasca experience?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm still afraid every time. You're not going to get away from being afraid. There's not going to be this magical moment where all of a sudden you're totally unafraid and all of that. You're going to be afraid. And also you're going to be safe. You're going to be okay.
Well, I'm telling you right now, Derek, if there's any place that I'm coming to, it's going to be to Pachamama Sanctuary. I ain't going anywhere else. I know we've got a lot of friends and family that are intrigued, and we've told them, this is the place. And so we're gonna plug all your information. But once again, if anyone here that's listening to us that wants to know about your sanctuary, how can they find out? Give us more information. How can they Google it up? We'll put the link. But what's your advice to people that want to seek some of this stuff?
Call me. Just call me. I answer the phone. Call me.
I love
I
it.
like
That's
that.
simple.
Nobody
He's like,
answers the phone
I
these
may be in the
days.
wilderness, but I still got cell reception.
Yeah.
And by the looks of
Well,
it, you still got good Wi-Fi out there, man. Considering
Yeah.
your videos coming in, no lag, no nothing.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
Starlink.
I also, sorry, I haven't
Starlink,
forgotten. I made a
Starlink.
promise. Me and Rose made a promise when we left because of what the experience we got. We said when we come back to the East Coast, we will have to volunteer at least one
Yeah.
time at one of the experiences. But when we did leave, though, we were so also shaken. Like we gotta wait till we get stronger before we
Yeah.
come back and volunteer because there was a lot of energy in that room. But
Yeah.
I have not forgotten. After the
Yeah, we
pandemic,
will
I
hold our
have not gone
promise.
anywhere East Coast. But I said when I go back, I will show up and volunteer for a week and give back.
Yep.
Or just show up and enjoy the space. I mean, this is a community space. I live here, but that doesn't mean it's my house. This is the community space. So
Yeah,
if you're on the
okay.
East Coast, you don't have to like volunteer to come and hang out. Just come, and there's room for 50. So you guys can,
oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh,
Just
wow.
come and spend time here. We're on 42 acres. There's
Wow.
a mile of
Whoa.
frontage on the river. Where it's a 3-minute walk to the river where you can go swimming and fishing and tubing, and there's 42 just stunning acres here. Just
Oh,
Wow.
come
man,
and be
I'm gonna have
still.
to take you up on that offer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, me
I-
Because I
too.
remember the day after when you left out, you're like, yeah, you guys could just stay here, and we were just in the house. We're like, are you sure? You're like, yeah, just stay here. We're like, it's okay. You can like just close the door when you leave. It's all right. We're like, okay, all right, thanks.
Derek, in closing, do you believe that people come into our lives for a reason, for a season?
I believe that every person that we connect with on any level is important because they have a message for us. They're all mirrors. And so when we have somebody that comes in that we love, we're seeing parts of ourselves that we love in them. When we see somebody who annoys us, we're seeing parts of ourselves that we don't like in somebody else. So the universe, God, the world sends us messengers all day long to see what is it that I need to see about myself right now.
Well,
And so, yes,
Love that.
love that, because I believe that you came into my brother and my sister's time at the exact same
Time that
time,
we
at the
needed.
time
Yep.
that they needed you. So there's definitely that connection. So you're monumental for them. So
Yeah,
for that, I
and
thank you.
I gotta say on behalf of everybody, we're very thankful that you've set up your shop in North America, so it's
Yeah.
accessible. Because that was one of the
Yep.
biggest reasons when we started looking into it. Everybody kept saying you got to go to South America to do this, and I had that exact same thought of when you said, like, what if I go there? I'm in the jungle and something happens and there's no access to medicine or help or whatnot. I was like, it was too daunting. And when Ange went through all the research and Rose and they're like, we found your place, and that's when I was like, okay. First of all, they got trusted people. They've been doing this for a while, and they're shamans straight from South America. I was like, this is gonna be the place we're gonna go to, and it's accessible within the Western Hemisphere.
awesome. Well, I'm glad you
Yeah.
came. And all those wonderful things that you said about me, remember that, you did the work, and you wouldn't be able to see those things if you weren't those things.
That's true, but you helped facilitate it. If it wasn't for your
Yes.
property, of you going through all the legwork to even like, I remember when we were talking there, the DEA at that time was giving you a hard time, and you're trying to find a lot of places, and there was just a lot of things going on. And I was just like,
Yeah,
we
you
all prayed that like, we
persevered.
hope he gets through it and finds the right spot of where he can go and not have to be bothered by this, because it's not like you're out there like selling crack cocaine to people. You're doing like, I feel like this is like God's work.
God's
You're showing
work.
people like, hey, you need to, like, the answers within us, and we're gonna have to dig deeper to find the answers.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, we
forever
are.
grateful, my friend, because I wouldn't be
Yes.
here today in the condition I'm in. Even before I had a drinking problem, I never would be like, I don't think I can go to a party and just hang out with people and sit there, watch them drink and me not drink. But now I can, like, it doesn't even bother me. So I have a different level of like my control over it, and it's almost just like I look at it differently now. So I thank you for that. And
That's so
thanks,
great.
Mother
Thank you.
Ayahuasca, for that.
Yeah.
Oh, and yes, and is ayahuasca? Alvin just said mother. Is it female, male? What's the connection? I guess.
Definitely a feminine spirit, like a grandmother type of
Oh,
energy. She's very disciplinarian and also compassionate at the same
Yeah.
time.
okay.
She wants the best for her children.
And so everyone feels that it's a feminine energy. Nobody has ever said it's a male energy. Interesting.
I mean, I don't. That's a very broad statement, and I don't know if somebody somewhere has said that it was a male energy, but it's widely understood as a feminine spirit.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, now it's like the mystery here, like mystery of the unsolved mysteries. Like I'm like, need to know more. But Derek, we want to thank you for your time. We're going to plug all of your information about your sanctuary, Pachamama Sanctuary. We have Derek joining us on the podcast today. This is the exact same place that Alvin and Rose had their profound ayahuasca experience. Derek, founding pastor and integration coach. You're doing amazing work. You got big sister now. Kind of started, the wheels are turning. I'm getting excited. I'll probably do a separate call without these two here and then ask you some more questions. And I'm sure in due course, we might just videotape me doing it. And if I can build up the courage, I'm sure our listeners and our viewers that are contemplating on doing it will do it. So.
And you have my promise. You will see me the next maybe a year or two. We will come down and visit and hang out and at least just give back in whichever way form we can. Maybe I'll mow your lawn for you.
With a John Deere.
I'll mow the 42 acres. I might be there for a while.
Wow.
I hope you have a John Deere for that one. Oh man, I love that.
That's beautiful. Well, Derek, we just want to say thank you so much. And in due course, we look chatting to you again. Thank you for your time and just making time to talk to us. So with that said, friends and family, it's a tribe called Dhillon signing off. We're going to put all of Derek's information below. And if you ever have the curiosity and you want the awakening of ayahuasca, you're going to have to check out Pachamama Sanctuary. And like Derek said, pick up the phone and call him because he does answer. So with that said, friends and family, a Tribe Called Dhillon podcast is signing off, and we'll be back next week. Take care of yourself and think about a win of the week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
See you, Derek. Thank you again.
See you, Derek. Thank you so
Derek.
much.
Yeah, this was amazing. Really appreciated.
Yeah.
This was great. Thank you for inviting me and then setting this up. It's great.